In just a second, we should be able to pull up. Oh, there it is. So this, I believe, is Naiman's list. Is that correct? Okay, Naiman's list here. Wow, interesting. Two Ursas, red-green.
A miss. Miss is huge, but you don't always get it early. It's only, with only one copy.
Yeah, we saw Miss just carry away some games yesterday.
So Naiman's deck does look like it's pretty good at fighting for board. That Tresden Standard is huge for fighting for board.
Yeah, it's got the early game that you want. These Ursas, like you mentioned, these things will trade very well into the Sorla.
Exactly. And okay.
Got one divine intervention.
I'm seeing some weaknesses. This is it's a pretty solid deck.
It's going to be a pretty fair matchup here.
I think it will be a very fair matchup.
I think Yoel's deck is stronger from like a power perspective, but this is the kind of deck that you want to be playing if you're against it.
Yeah, I would say Naiman's deck is sort of a fight for board deck.
Early game.
Perfect.
Look at all those like 3s, 4s, and 5s. A lot of 5s.
Yep, and he does have 7 creeps, and I think we ended up seeing Yoel having 17. So maybe if Naiman's able to kind of put up that wall early, it's going to be hard to deal with a wide board, especially since I think the only thing we saw from his creep pool is that red Miss Pillager that can potentially grow and go out of control. But yeah, red-green typically not too much board clear. Oh, and it looks like the game started.
Oh, so we're getting in here already.
Gonna jump into it.
Let's pull this up. This is going to be a very kind of creep combat oriented matchup. Should be pretty skill intensive.
We might have to relaunch, so we might be
issue here.
One thing I'm worried about with Naiman's deck is when you're against a Sorla deck, yeah, you're winning on board, but at any point they can just stack all the heroes on the lane and take the tower because there isn't that much pressure from Naiman's end. So it's going to take him a while to kill the towers. He's going to be winning the board, but he's going to be killing the towers very slowly. And with the hero deaths, it might line up such that Yoel can just deploy 4 in a lane.
Exactly. Like you can be in this position where you're in, Naiman's shoes, and this probably will happen in at least one of the games, where, you kind of stabilize, right? You kill Yoel's heroes, but, maybe one of your towers is dead, the other's at 15 health, and what do you do at that point? You can't end the game fast enough.
I've been in the situation against double Sorla that's like...
Okay. So encountering a bit of technical difficulty here. If we squint real hard, we might be able to see the board there.
See some no accidents coming out.
Oh, wow, you've got good vision.
That's where Riley throws her wrench tool.
Yes. So we'll be pulling. Oh, there it is. There. Okay. Just beta things, guys. All right.
Yeah.
So we have Yoel at the top.
Yeah.
And Naiman's at the bottom with the red-green. And we are on the second deploy with Abaddon going into the mid lane, it looks like, just after the shopping phase.
If we look at Yoel's hands, very low quality. But this is actually perfect. He got the 2 creeps in the same lane. So now he might kind of all in that lane and try to ram the first tower. And that gives him a lot of freedom. Or he could put the Abaddon just in lane 3. Normally you'd want to spread the heroes, but with an aggressive deck like his, I wouldn't mind him seeing him go aggressive and just stack it in the middle lane with that Riley.
Yeah. So this is pretty interesting. We got a lot of plays on Naiman's end. He's got pretty much the hand you want to see if you're Naiman right now. I mean, you'll be able to slow down the aggression here. You've got good 4-turn plays on both left and mid.
And there it is. So see, good players will usually adjust with those creep spawns. He saw 2 creep spawns in the middle, and he decided to put the Abaddon with there.
No, I thought you were going to say good players will usually curve that Ursa into that. I'd love to see something proactive like a Satyr Duelist come out here. Selfish Cleric looks like it has a pretty good opportunity to come down in the middle lane here against this creep.
The one thing is the Iron Shell is actually very hard to get value out of, and he does get it here. Slight risk, though, knowing Heffa could have a health item. Luckily, it's a sword.
Yep. If you're Heffa, do you maybe use a Rebel Decoy to save your Lycanthrope here, putting it in front of the melee creep?
You do have 4.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Yeah.
So keep in mind, the Lycan is being threatened by the Darkseer's Ion Shell, which gives the Darkseer permanent retaliate. The Rebel Decoy could come down in front of Naiman's melee creep, use its active to swap positions with Yoel's Lycan, basically just saving the Lycan and allowing it to punch a creep.
But this is really interesting from Heffa. He could be saying, okay, this lane's lost. I'm not going to win it back because that's not what my deck does. I'm going to let this Lycan die and then stack the 3rd lane. Looks like he is going to go with the normal play, though.
I like this line of play. Now, if you're Naiman, you've got the Demagicking Maul, and we can hover over that to see what it does exactly. But basically, we will be looking to use that on something like an Assault Ladders, because being able to pick off opponents' improvements is going to be very powerful.
It's going to be pretty hard, though, because Yul will be using the ladders in the lanes that he is the widest on, so it's going to be hard for Naiman to hit the tower in those lanes.
Yep. We see Naiman just passing here. Not necessarily floating the mana. It looks like he's trying to react to what Yoel wants to do. Could be a bit of a risky move if Yoel passes back.
Yeah, I think the main thing is that Cleric, he doesn't want his minions to get hit by the Riley Rock, is probably what he's dodging. And again, it's like, I think you were mentioning, when you have 2 heroes of a color,
yes,
they're not going to pass.
Yeah, so this is a great call by Naiman, a bit of a head play. Like, you're Naiman, you see, okay, Yoel has green and black. He's got a very low curving deck. What are the odds he's going to not waste this mana, right? Because Naiman's trying to pass to gain reactivity. And
but
Yoel calls it.
Yeah, it's actually huge. He had the wolf, but Yoel knows the wolf's a little bit fragile when your opponent has a lot of mana. So Naiman had that Cleric that would have eat the wolf for free. Or the Satyr even.
So both players basically calling that the other one is just waiting for reactivity and passing against each other, each forcing out of options.
But who do you think got the better end of that? Because, so Yul is winning the lane, but however, he didn't get to develop in that lane he was winning, which he did want to. So I think I would say Naiman got the better end of that.
I do think so as well.
Oh, look at this. I'm liking this last lane.
That's a scary lane.
That's the way to do it.
Keep in mind, Sorless passive will allow her to deal 12 damage total when attacking a tower.
Yep, and Naiman also has 2 heroes at his disposal to deploy. He might be able to get the read that Yul wants to do as much tower damage as possible, so he might be thinking about putting these 2 heroes to defend that lane as well.
Yeah, and keep in mind, they can't see what the other person is deploying. We can right now because we're spectating, but they're basically just trying to consider where the other player might be putting their heroes.
Yeah, Naiman could see it coming, but it's such a tough call to put both red heroes in the right lane and then have nothing happen. I think this is fine.
This could be a bit of an overcommitment left for Naiman.
3 heroes in the left lane.
Yeah, I think Naiman actually wants to turn up the heat on this lane. He wants to get that pillager down.
Do you think that's safe? I feel like he could get rushed out by Yoel by committing 3 heroes to this lane.
I think sometimes when you have the pillager on 5, you adjust your game plan around it. But he might wait until the Lycan is dead or Yoel spent his mana before he exposes it. It's very weak here, creep.
Yeah, and if you're Yul, are you thinking that you just let the Lycan die and just abandon this lane?
You can't really necessarily safely abandon the lane against the Darkseer, but at the same time, even with the Surge coming down, you still have 2 heroes trapped in this lane.
Oh, this is actually a huge play. Whenever you have a Darkseer, you can overstack the main lane or the first lane if your Darkseer's in that lane. Then you can see where your opponent deploys. Then you could surge accordingly. It's very common for people to but you'll see 3 heroes in the Darkseer lane like that.
Yep, good call. It's probably Naiman's plan all along, and he was really hoping that surging the Ursa might bring him in front of the other Sorla, because this Sorla here is still doing 12 damage to the tower.
And we have a special guest joining us on the couch.
Oh.
Hey
Oh,
how you doing?
It is Life Coach here on the
himself.
couch. Catch you up to speed on this game. It looks like we have the green-red versus Yul's black and green aggressive deck. Have you had a chance to look at Yul's deck yet?
Not yet, but I'm checking it out now.
Awesome. All right, so I'm thinking Red Mist Pillager here.
Yeah, so this is a huge... Naiman, he was holding back. He didn't want to expose it, but he decides it's worth the risk. Heffa has a huge value trade with the Bull Martyr.
The Bull Martyr is going to die to this Red Mist Pillager, preventing it from gaining more and more buddies to attack this tower. I think if we check the deck list as well, there was only one over here of the Red Mist Pillager.
Red Mist Pillager, yep,
so
that's correct.
That's the only one.
Yep. So it's a pretty bad trade for Naiman. You really were hoping that the Red Mist Pillager might not get blocked there.
Yeah.
We're going to Town Portal scroll out the Darkseer, allowing him to redeploy in a different lane.
I mean, I'm still trading one on one card against a card without value loss, so that's fine for him, I guess.
Yeah, we were looking at the decks then, and we thought Naiman really needed to rely on the Pillager to do a lot of work.
Right.
Which is unfortunate. And Naiman knew that it was a risk, so I think Naiman does feel a little bit behind that he went for it.
Yep. We can take a look at kind of how the other lanes are going. This mid lane is a bit scary for Naiman potentially, but it looks like he has kind of the defensive tools he needs. He's got a lot of green units he can play here, so we should be able to kind of hold off this. And of course on right lane, what do we see happening there?
Oh, looks like Lycan is now going to equip that Signet Ring to survive, especially now that Darkseer's TP'd out. Maybe Yul's thinking that the first lane might be looking like a good point of contention as well.
He also gained the buff because of the protection, so that's definitely also helpful. We see Abaddon here. Abaddon against red-green is specifically powerful because he has this ability where he can make himself invulnerable and also heal himself fully. And this is insanely powerful if you cannot disrupt that. For example, gank him before he activates his power, and red-green doesn't have tools to disrupt that. Right? Red and green, they are colors which rather live from stat strength, where black and blue are colors which can disrupt your opponent's heroes.
Yep. So we see the Selfish Cleric being developed. Now, if you're Yoel, do you use No Accident on the Lycan or the Selfish Cleric here?
I think it just depends of how much he wants to fight for this lane. Yoel might be saying this is over. One of the benefits of having... Oh, he's still going to fight for it. Okay.
I like that. I like that very much because a Selfish Cleric, he heals himself full if not being contested, and the hero is just worth less.
Yeah, the biggest thing about killing heroes is that they come back in 2 turns, whereas creeps don't. So if you have the opportunity to kill a creep, it's less gold, but it's a permanent removal threat on the board.
Unfortunately, no way to stop this damage coming in from Sorla for Naiman. So Yoel will be doing 12 to the last lane here. But wow, okay. What do you think of that enough magic?
Definitely pretty scared of what Yoel could have done in hand. I mean, we can see Yoel's hand. He didn't really have anything except for Assault Ladders.
Yep, and now we see Naiman just picking up a Fountain Flask. So Assault Ladders is an interesting card. It only costs 3, but would you guys say it's more of a late game improvement?
Probably more of a mid-game improvement. I think a lot of players maybe make the mistake of using improvements on like turn 1. It definitely doesn't feel like something you would rather play on turn 1. It's great on like turn 5 or 6. So you can play it on turn 1, depending on like, you know, your hand state.
Yep, and as we mentioned before for Yoel, he kind of wants to just put that in the 2 lanes that he wants to win, basically the weakest ones for Naiman. And wow, it looks like Naiman's going to be putting that Darkseer into that last lane with the double Sorlas to kind of help and defend it a little bit more.
Yeah, like we talked about earlier, the issue with placing the Assault Ladders early is it gives a lot of information to your opponent. However, since Yoel has so many, we could actually see some bluffs where he pre-puts it in a lane to get Naiman to go there, and then he goes to a different lane.
Looks like a hero trade here, but we do have some Fountain Flasks coming out. Keith can also heal up.
Yeah, he can actually kill the Lycan if he has a broadsword, he has a poison strike, he has enough if he wants to, but it's a lot of cards to be used.
It's a major commitment. It depends on whether Naiman kind of wants to fight for this lane or not. And the Savage Wolf here represents a major threat as well, something that will be growing every turn.
So I actually really like... I was saying it's very hard for Naiman to defend every lane, but with the Darkseer, he might be able to. We can see he's successfully defended that 3rd lane from the double Sorla onslaught, and he's going to be able to surge an Ursa away for wherever Yoel ends up putting them.
There's one thing to be said about the Darkseer on the right lane though. While if you, I mean, the game goes in rounds, so if you port it from a left lane to the right lane, the hero or whatever you ported will still use the effect the very turn. But if you port it from the right to the left, it basically means that your hero, whatever you ported, is basically sitting out that very turn. And that's obviously quite a disadvantage if you do that.
Yeah, pretty much any ability in the game you want to use to the right. Anything going to the left is going to be slightly worse.
So
except
this
except for
against the Satyr Duelist is
oh,
a
that's
really
huge.
good trade for Naiman here.
the one ability you do want to use from the right, though, is Intimidate on your opponent. That way you are sending them back a turn, basically.
Right.
So if you're Naiman here, do you Fountain Flask your Lycan preemptively, or do you save it for something that might be happening on the right lane?
Oh, goes ahead and Fountain Flasks.
Yes. Maybe with that Riley coming back, you are afraid of that no accident coming in.
Unfortunately, we've got this battle. Sorla's not hitting the tower, but gonna start developing the Assault Ladders in the first lane.
And this is exactly what you want to see if you're Naiman. I mean, Ursa is dying, which is a little unfortunate, but this is still a good trade for you overall. And Yoel can't really do anything about it with his hand. He can use his short sword to trade with the Darkseer.
This is looking pretty good for Naiman, but again, at any point...
Oh, he does
saving
do
the
it.
short
Wow.
sword. Wow. He's keeping initiative, but that's not really going to matter very much with his hand. Why do you think he didn't short sword there? What's he saving it for?
I think Yoel wants to dance around, and
Yeah.
he sees the 3 heroes there. Even with the Darkseer, it's going to be 2 heroes there, and he wants to dance around to another lane and just sort of dodge Naiman.
And we did mention before that Darkseer being stranded here makes his Surge less valuable, so maybe he just wants to keep him in the last lane for now.
Yep. This is a game where you're seeing Darkseer's mobility come in absolutely huge. I mean, again, Yoel's trying to strand him again, and the Surge is just off cooldown. Even though one of his Keefs will, or sorry, one of his Ursas will miss a turn, it still gets them out of that situation.
one thing that's really cool too is a Blink Dagger on Darkseer. Then you could Blink Darkseer somewhere and then shift someone from that lane. It's awesome.
It's like passing the baton.
Yeah.
Clear the deck is great here. Allows you to clean up that wolf because, of course, it just gives your Keef a little bit of cleave, dealing 4 to the wolf.
Now
Yeah,
this
wolves
one-
are scary.
Yeah, you can even equip the Stonewall Plate now because it basically a cumulative effect. So the earlier you basically play that and that item, the stronger it will be.
I gotta say, I'm really liking the position Naiman's in right now. I mean, you can move one of your Ursas out, one left.
But you can see he is lacking that pressure, especially with that Pillager gone. Like he would love to have the Pillager in lane 3 right now. But it's going to take him a while to kill 2 towers, I think.
Yeah, and we did mention before we have just 7 creeps for Naiman and 17 for the side of Yol. And he's already killed 2 of those 7 creeps. So if this does go later, do you see more of the creeps overwhelming Naiman perhaps?
Probably, actually.
Not too much for green and red to do in terms of creep removal.
There is the Hem of the Dominator though, right? For who has that in the deck?
Oh, okay. That's going to be huge.
That
Yeah,
is on the
that's
side of
huge.
Naiman.
Yeah, that's like such a huge late game threat. So once the Hem of the Dominator becomes online, that will definitely dominate.
So it looks like Naiman's basically given up mid at this point. We've got the mobility on the Darkseer. Where are you looking to surge one of these Ursas?
Again, it does
Probably
kind of
over-
hurt. He wants that tower
Yeah.
damage. He's going to miss on that tower damage. We see the downside that Life Coach was talking about.
So if you're Naiman, you have to be thinking that, I mean, a major threat is the triple deployment left. You could look to surge one of them if you're thinking your Lycan won't be enough. I'd like to surge the Ion Shell Dursa.
Yep. Looks like he is going to send him to the first lane.
Yeah, I mean he will get the right lane for sure anyways, so he can begin searching now so that he is not overcommit. I mean he is already kind of overcommit on the right lane.
Yeah, it looks like Yol's going to get the middle lane for sure.
Yeah.
But we know Yol has that much better ancient pressure. So Naiman can't fully stack the first lane even though he wants to. Because then it'll be a race with Yol. Or at least I'll say there's a big risk in doing that.
I don't know. Naiman's looking pretty good here.
I think this is Naiman's window for the first lane.
Oh really? I think Heifer can play all the heroes on the left. Oh,
Okay,
okay.
Okay, so Yol's going for an 80 next turn. He only has one ladder in
80
hand.
next turn.
I think it's possible. I mean, 14 for... Is there a ladder in that lane? There's a ladder in that lane as well, so it's going to be +4 on everything. Sola's already doing 12, 16, 32.
It's 24.
It's not impossible.
35.
Naiman, I don't think Naiman's going to be deploying mid.
Is 48 plus 14? It's like 62. 62 plus the rebel decoys. So I think it's he has 68 damage in total at the very moment with no disruption.
That's a really risky play.
Yeah, and again, Naiman is going to go first in this lane.
Oh
so
wow, the disciple is so huge. That will
Oh
do
my
it.
god.
Oh, yeah.
That's so
But that's next
basically-
turn. And
Yeah,
Naiman
that's next
could-
turn. Yeah, I think it's.
Yol has to defend this lane successfully.
which he actually can, because Naiman doesn't have
Yep.
much.
So Naiman literally has to win right lane in one turn.
Well,
Naiman-
but he does, right?
yes.
And again, if you pop this tower, it's not going to do that spillover damage. So Yol's already ramping up,
Just
putting
putting the
down
ladders down now.
salt ladders. Yep.
I mean, the
Going to
Kinfolk
come down
turret's
anyway.
Just 2 creeps, though, in this lane for Naiman could disrupt a lot of damage.
Yeah. I mean, Naiman can't take this tower in one turn.
Yeah.
Surge is down, and there's no way for his heroes to move to that mid lane to...
Wait, oh, he can Sucker Punch that creep, and that unlocks 12.
Sucker Punch is only against a red hero.
Oh, I thought it was poking. Oh, I thought the Ursa was going to it.
Nope.
Yeah.
So he can really hold. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, that's got to be it. Yoel has the hold. He's got the 80 damage mid in this next turn, and Naiman can't do anything about it.
I mean, 2 creep spawns, again, could block a lot of damage. Oh, not with the Disciple. Probably not.
Yeah, the disciple was really huge. He really needed that one
Yeah.
to inflict the 80 damage in total.
But he did have 3 ladders still in the deck, I believe, so it's pretty good odds on his end.
3 ladders.
4 ladders. Oh, yeah, 4 ladders in deck
Yeah.
still.
I love that call, putting both Sorla mid. I mean, it's we're not sure exactly. I mean, did he need to draw Disciple for it to work?
Oh,
he needed to draw
definitely.
something.
Definitely.
Or the ladders, and he had 4 copies
Or the
left.
ladders.
Over 2 turns, so 4 jaws for
Yeah.
at least 5 outs.
I think the 5th out on the 4 ladders makes it, I think, worthy.
Yeah, there might even be a handful more in there.
True. And 1 creep spawning.
this creep has to do a lot of work.
Lone survivor.
I gotta say, I really love this deployment. Like, this
Yeah,
deployment
this-
did straight up win him the game. He recognized, and this is really important, the fact that mid lane goes before right lane, because this is going to allow him to win when he otherwise wouldn't have if right lane had gone first.
It's the Mist of Avernus right on time.
Yeah, you hate to see that miss late. Yeah, even though Naiman's going to take this first tower, like you said, that mid lane's going to go right before the last lane, so Hefa's just going to take this game one with that no contested hero here. Puts down that Disciple of Nevermore and does a whopping 98 damage to the tower.
And this is how insanely scary Yoel's deck is. This is the kind of thing we were talking about before. It has that ancient threat that you just can't ignore.
Yeah, so he's losing boards, and he's like, finally, I'll just stack all 5 heroes in the lane and win that one.
No, that was a huge deployment turn. Like, we didn't necessarily
expect
see
it. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't see it coming. Like, and his opponent sure didn't either, because actually one deployment mid could have actually stopped that from working.
Yeah. Well, I would say well played, well defended from Naiman all around, but you could see just one hole or one good play from Yoel is all it takes.
That's right. But yeah, we did see the power though of the Sorlas coming through in the end. I think his the insight that Yoel had to just hit that tower and just pretty much prioritize saving the Sorlas. Oh, and we're going straight into the game again.
Yep, Artifact is a game that's really about deployments, and you can kind of see that. It usually affects more the long-term stuff, but in this case, like, a game is just won or lost based on very clever deployments or just kind of predicting what the opponent's going to do.
Yep, and going right into it, we do see again, it looks like from our mini-map, Sorla is unfortunately going to be dying to an Ursa in the last lane.
Yep. Got the Rebel Decoy. This is exactly what we were talking about, the decoy opener next to the Lycan, picking up that aura, and, you can use that active later on. The aggressive no accident. This is the kind of application you want from Debbie's signature card. Usually a little weak, but there are situations where it can just represent doing enough damage to kill something.
Yep, and especially early on, there's no items, no mana to really help save from that damage, so good to use that and pick off a hero.
Good pickup on the phase boots from Naiman too. Now he can force his better fighting heroes to fight Yoel's weaker heroes.
Yep, something you want to use for something like Sorla. You could even use it left this turn on the Ursa. Phase boot specifically does the same thing that Rebel Decoy's active does. You can just swap places with another allied unit, and this just helps you kill these black heroes that die to your red heroes.
And yeah, again, Naiman with the... he's sad about that Darkseer in the third lane, but he feels he has to do it.
Yep, no heroes in the last lane for either player, so they're both going to put their hero deployments there.
I would have really loved Abaddon on the left lane because, Abaddon is a hero, he has insane sustainability, so you want him kind of to go in a lane where there's active fighting, and he could have also, even if he would have spawned against a creep, he could have farmed the creep, and in the right lane there's always also the threat that he just is there, and now in this case, he's wasting a lot of sustainability for nothing.
One thing I will say, though, is we noticed last game, he just put the Abaddon in the lane that got the most creeps because he just wants to go wide and take that first tower. I think so. We might see a Sorla or two go into that right lane as well.
Yep. So let's look at Yoel's options in hand here. He's got Pick Off, this powerful black spell, his cross lane. You can use that to deal 4 damage to anything. If you want to put some pressure on this, it is an option. You've got Gank, which is a very powerful card that will usually sacrifice one of Yoel's heroes this game because both the Sorla and the Debbie are very squishy heroes, but you can take something else with it or just use it to kind of kill a creep that won't kill you back.
This is actually huge. If he goes for the point, now Naiman can dodge the point with the phase boots.
Yep.
That's huge.
And the phase boots,
and on top of that,
swapping right into that. And the swap won't even redirect the arrow because when you swap, the arrow stays the same.
Yeah, so arrows are basically based on the position, not the card itself.
Yeah. So this is a huge outgame. The Debbie is now curved onto that position, and now when the Ursa swaps, the Debbie will actually be redirected back to the creep in Ursa's position that it was already directed at in the first place.
Yep, and now Yoel's thinking about whether he wants to use his black spells because after he takes his turn, depending on what he does, Ursa's inevitably going to swap over to kill off that Debbie.
Yeah,
Oh, he
so
can-
if
he can pick
picks
off the
that
creep.
He could pick
Yeah.
off a creep.
But it's still good for Naiman
That's
because
true.
Naiman will make Riley still hit a creep. He won't get the trade.
Ganks
Okay, this is also pretty good.
Yep. Oh, he's ganking the Darkseer. Yep. So he's realizing that his unit is dying, so he's just sacrificing its health in this case to get a free kill on the right.
Yep, and this time Ursa doesn't even have to swap if he wants to. He could push in for that 11 damage to the tower.
Yeah, so it's interesting, Naiman. That damage does look juicy. However, 9 damage on your Ursa, it's actually, he can kind of take it with 14.
Swap one of these left melee creeps and just kind of get the best of both
Oh,
worlds.
okay,
That's
yeah.
true.
I actually like that a lot.
I mean, as Klumpen, you could have just waited, right? Waited for the swap, and after the swap, doing the gank.
That's true as well. You could have.
Yeah, then he would have avoided 9 tower damage.
Yeah.
So that's kind of huge.
Yeah, and you actually kind of, if anything, might not even want initiative at this stage. There can be early or kind of mid-game turns, like turn 3, turn 4, turn 5, or sorry, mana turns, where it's actually beneficial to go second because you want to play reactively.
Yeah, without having to do that sort of bluffing, passing, where they can pass back.
So what are you looking for here for your Naiman? I mean, you got this defensive Bloom card in hand, and you have the ability to stall out the lane, but you could also just consider kind of trying to give it up.
Well, that's a very interesting deploy also from Klumpen, because he could have also played on the right side to undermine the Likan buff, because Likan is a card, he buffs on the left and on the right side. And if he would have played the creep on the right side, Naiman could have not even done that play. He just chose to opt in for.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
really interesting.
Naiman will be taking left.
I guess he was going for that arrow onto the Lycan.
Right.
Yeah, that's what he's going for.
But
But yeah,
still,
very high risk,
high
low
risk,
reward.
yeah.
So, I mean, Naiman's got this left lane. You got to be guessing where are these Sorlas going. You see 2 Sorlas on deployment, and you're going to be very scared if you're Naiman.
Yeah, I think as Naiman right now, you're thinking that one Sorrel is going to go here for sure. It's kind of like the most open lane for her to hit that tower. But he's going to go for the mid lane. He feels pretty good about this first one, so going to look to defend the second most threatened lane.
This is where Naiman wants that Pillager. Be amazing. It will allow him to put huge ancient pressure on this first lane.
Yeah, man. Thanks to this this creep right here, chumping some of the damage from these melee creeps, and so this tower is not going to hit lethal just yet.
Yep.
He could choose to use the Poised or the Enrage.
Yeah, if he wants to kind of... if he's thinking about trying to kill this Ancient, the clock at which he manages to kill this tower is relevant. Otherwise, it wouldn't be unless he's afraid of Yoel
that's a good
really
point.
defending this, which kind of doesn't really make the difference. We can see these fighting instincts in Naiman's hand right now. This is Keef's signature card, and really kind of the downside of running Keef. He's got a pretty good body for a basic hero, but a very weak 5-mana signature card that has a very hard time doing anything.
Yeah, it's sort of like a 2-mana card that you wouldn't even, or a 3-mana card that you wouldn't even want to play.
Yeah.
And you have to spend 5 mana on it. Cool animation though. It always feels good to press.
So
go ahead.
Naiman's just kind of playing it just to get it out there.
Yeah, he gets the
proactive.
lethal with
Yep.
the.
So the fact that he's using the Magic King Maul kind of so proactively might mean he is looking at this Ancient as a potential win condition. Maybe he top decks the Pillager next turn.
Yeah, and he could always put the Darkseer there and shift the Ursa out.
Yeah, I mean, if Naiman can set up a defense, Yoel's deck, the biggest weakness with Yoel's deck is that it can't really come back from a lost board very easily. So, you know, you have all these units on Naiman's side. You can't really deploy left if you're Yoel. You do kind of have to abandon it. Try to win the other lanes.
I do kind of like this. He's going to use the Divine Intervention to make all his units damage immune, so they will survive this turn and end up killing that Lycan as well.
Really huge Divine Intervention here.
He probably also want to swap with Sorla to inflict much more damage.
Yep. Rebel Decoy has that active up and can do that extra damage to Keef. Won't kill him, but...
Punishable by a healing salve, though, because if that swap comes down, ooh, salving first.
Mm-hmm.
So now Yoel knows will not take the swap because, of course, you want to kill the Lycan. That pick a fight is going to come in for huge value, though, keeping damage off both of the side units. When you taunt, basically, the adjacent opponent units will be basically curving into you.
Still not that great, but Naiman just making the best of a bad situation there.
Yep. Just trying to stall it out. Just trying to stay in the game. Maybe buy his left lane more time. So now this lane is up to Yoel exactly what he wants to do with it. You could develop the Assault Ladders here if you want to take this tower. Develop the Selfish Cleric to push kind of the same amount of damage. Or maybe even use Pickoff to support a different lane.
Looks like he's going for that Selfish Cleric. Unfortunately, does the unnecessary damage to the creep.
Yep. Assault Ladders right is pretty scary. Yoel is looking at this right tower, and even though left goes before right, if Yoel wants to do an Ancient Kill right, it will happen faster. His deck has much scarier Ancient Kill potential, 2 Assault Ladders in hand if he draws a second one in 4 more draws, right?
Yeah, big decision here too. He could have had that defensive bloom in the right lane, but again, he doesn't want to put the Darkseer in the right lane.
I love this Darkseer flexibility. So if you're Naiman, you're looking at this 80 health tower, and you're thinking, okay, what's my win condition? Am I going to try to 80 this, or do I have to surge out the Ursa and start defending the other lanes?
Fortunately, he didn't draw any tools that will help him do that. Not that he has that much, but he has a few green creeps that would help.
Yep.
But nothing and of course the Pillager would help him put a lot of pressure. But since he drew none of that, we could see him shift the Ursa out and play more defensive.
I think you might have to. I mean, if you're Naiman right now, you're looking at this tower. It's taking 20 this turn. At best, you can maybe kill this in 3 turns with some additional tools. But 3 turns is not necessarily going to be fast enough. I mean, we saw Naiman lose his Ancient in 1 turn last time. He's going for it. He's applying pressure.
Now here's the thing with that Satyr. It does 6, but it's always it's going to spawn a blocker every turn. And we'll see if that blocker blocks more than 6 on average.
Right.
Oh.
He ported
Okay,
it,
I like that a lot.
Portaled it to a
I like
different
that
lane.
when you use it defensively, you don't have that downside.
Oh,
Right.
Yeah, that's a very good spawn right into a hero. A large part of the strategy behind using this card, Curse Satyr, is just kind of using it, imagining it sort of as a spell that blocks something and deals 6 damage to a hero. You do want to play this like into a hero, just like this, so it just deals 6 damage and dies right away, so you don't have to suffer the downside.
I like this play from Naiman. Even though he knows that Yoel can race him, it is probably his best play, is putting a lot of pressure on this first tower. Playing defensive he doesn't have the tools to play defensive, really.
Yep. And speaking of defensive, we've also got the defensive bloom. This is going to buy him the time he needs, because in Artifact, you're kind of... Most other card games tend to, be a bit more linear. You've got, an aggressor and a defender. In Artifact, both players are playing different roles on different lanes, right? So even though Naiman's racing left, the defensive bloom on something like mid will buy him more time if he wants to do what he needs to left.
It's actually quite a good card, too. If you're coming from other card games, you think 208s or whatever is kind of weak, but it's a pretty strong card.
Yeah. It's kind of exactly that reason why tower health is much more of an important resource in Artifact compared to other card games, just because you need to buy yourself time.
Yep, and it looks like Naiman does cast that Stars Align so that he has options to cast a combination of his spells if he chooses to. So he's going to put the Iron Shell on the Lycan to threaten the Sorla, but we do have the Rebel Decoy that can swap her out of safety.
Yeah, but that also protects the Lycan. And anytime Iron Shell does anything, you're pretty happy.
Yep. We'll have to see the either the defensive loom coming out here, or maybe he wants to save Enrage. It will be blocking both the Sorla and the Lycan's attack.
Yeah,
Even
so we see it's actually
Lycans.
blocking, so 14 off the Sorla, and then 12 it's going to block from the Lycan. So that's a lot of damage.
That's a ton of damage.
Compared to a heal card, yeah. So that's, 26.
I'm still a little scared of this right lane, though. I mean, we saw some ridiculous potential come out here. Again, Naiman won't be able to kill this in 1 turn. Do we think it is at all possible for Yoel to take the Ancient in 1 turn on the 80?
Oh, not in 1.
I think so. Double ladders right now, and with 1 more.
But that's only
gonna
50. I think it's only 50 at the very moment, even with double ladders. So
Have to top deck another Disciple.
Yeah,
Yeah,
again.
and so maybe some creep spawns.
I mean, you don't have mobility right now if you're Yoel. You have to do something. You have to either bank on that or try to race down mid. This is probably the most important decision for Yoel in the game, whether he goes for mid or tries to Ancient Kill right. He knows left tower is lost. Look at Yoel's deployments. He's got nothing coming in, right? Nothing on this side, which means left lane is going down in 2 turns, and there's nothing you can do about that if you're Yoel. We're going to have to see these Assault Ladders come down right now, and this is the decision.
He could always play them from the mid lane next turn. He's trying to conceal them, I think. And the nice thing is, so Naiman's going to put his red here on the... He's probably going to stack the first lane and then surge accordingly again. I'm sorry, it's actually on cooldown. So actually a big decision from Naiman where he puts that Ursa. It's not that efficient of a defender, but he might feel like it'll make the difference in that 3rd lane.
I mean, we see also the Abaddon with his active ability sitting there. So that's what I was talking about earlier. So if you deploy him in a lane where he doesn't take damage, I mean, he could have already prevented 20 damage or something. He's like a tank, if you want to say so. And he could just not use his tank ability. And if that's not the case, he just deals 4 damage, which is quite weak for a hero.
Interesting play by by Yoel, playing the Keenfolk turret on the left lane. He's actually trying to buy himself some time. He's going to use that to pick off this Legion Standard Bear at 2 health.
Right.
Which
Naiman
will
does have a potion, though. He might.
Yes, and initiative. So Naiman sees that coming. The salve will come down on this if he doesn't want to use it on the Lycan mid. A bit of a key decision on where the salve goes.
And big creep spawns, too. 2 nice defenders for Heffa and no defenders for Naiman in the right lane. And Heffa also got an additional creep.
Oh, smash
now
the
he can smash.
defenses.
That's really powerful.
Very good, yes.
But he can also use the hammer.
Yeah, it's one of the more
He
powerful
wants the
spells.
draw here.
You basically just kill an improvements, and with it, the threat to the Legion Standard Bearer goes away. This tower is dying next turn.
Looking at Yoel's hand right now, looks like he doesn't quite have enough tools to push for the 80.
He's got 2 assault
Two
ladders
assault
from
ladders.
mid to right,
Yeah.
plus the Assassin's Apprentice. I do think that's not quite enough. It's gonna be, it will be kind of close.
So
I mean, he
plus-
cannot play all of them.
Yeah.
So
Well, you can from the
I mean, from the mid, yeah. So,
Yeah. So
but
it's-
that's 50 damage maybe.
It's plus 32, including the musket, plus whatever it has right now, which is not going to be enough. I think it's like 28 or something, so
Okay.
60 probably.
Doesn't have too many options here either to open the lane to some of his damage.
How much damage can this pick off to the left? He can gank and pick off to the left.
Yep, you
I
can
don't
try to
think it's
play
enough, though.
defensively and buy yourself an extra turn, but
It's
this
looking
is
good for
12
Naiman.
overkill already, and Naiman has the Keef. This does look very good for Naiman. If you're Yoel, you could consider trying to go mid, picking
Yeah.
off this Lycan, maybe using Keenfolk Musket on this melee creep here.
He's going to go for the gank.
Keenfolk's unique ability to deal 2 damage to a unit on the active will kind of allow you to just kill this additional trump blocker.
Okay, can Yoel ever find lethal here? He can unlock an additional...
That's a key gank. It locks Naiman out of red. The Mercenary Exiles is no longer an option, but the 2 blockers Naiman has, if Yoel plays a creep, it will have to go in front of these 2 slots here.
And unfortunately, Assault Ladders is not going to quite do it. He's just too off lethal. if
Oh
he
no,
does
no,
put that
he
Keenfolk Musket
can.
and Assault
Keenfolk,
Ladders.
that's
Oh,
doing it.
oh,
That's doing
it.
it exactly. Yeah, yeah.
And Naiman doesn't have a blocker.
That's
Yoel
right.
doesn't know Naiman doesn't have a blocker. He doesn't know that he's completely locked out of his entire hand here. If he goes for this, though, he will win.
Well, I mean, he will definitely go for it, right?
Yes. At this point,
You've got to see
goes
it.
for the Keenfolk
Keenfolk
Musket.
is there.
Just the 2 extra attack is what he needs.
Naiman will either have to pass
Well,
or
wait,
take
if he
a salve.
potions his... He had to
Oh.
he had to potion the Lycan. Oh, I'm sorry.
It-
I thought he could play pick off. Never mind.
The Assault Ladders is lethal here.
Yep.
And there's nothing Naiman
That's
can
it.
do about it. That is
Oh my
it.
goodness.
the imp is also happy.
Yeah. Man, locking
That's
locking Naiman out of that red, ganking that Ursa was completely crucial. There's no other way to lethal mid there.
Yeah. That's a
The
big,
maths.
good place. Good place. Great
We
effort
were
from Naiman.
busy looking at the ancient potential on both sides with the left and right, but Yoel was able to solve that puzzle there in the mid lane.
In both
Yeah.
of those games, Yoel saw something that none of us saw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
None of the 4 of us at first. That's so.
Well
done,
here
and he's
he
coming
is,
in onto the couch.
the man of the hour. He's going to join us in just a second, and we can talk about those games.
Welcome, Yoel. Good games. Well played. We'll get that headset on, but walk us through that. Game 1, you took down the Ancient, went for the
Yeah.
double Sorla.
Yeah.
Did you kind of were you hoping to play around those key cards coming in, like Disciple, Assault Ladders, to just kind of push for that damage?
Yeah, no, definitely. My heroes have a really hard time beating my opponent's heroes in
Yes.
combat, especially when they have 2 Ursa. You want to stay away from their heroes as much as possible, because not only is Ursa good in combat, it has its passive ability which gives your opponent minus armor, but they also get 6 copies of Enrage in their deck, which means that you will almost never beat them in combat ever, which makes it so that you just want to evade them at any cost, never be in front of a red hero, basically. My opponent also had Sucker Punch and Poison Strike, all these combo tricks. So, but it worked out pretty well, because that also means that since my opponent also was green-red and had a lot of cards that are good when you for combat and only in front of the hero, and it can't really deal with anything going wide, I think I have an edge because of that. especially with 4 rebel decoys, I can always like stay away from my opponent's heroes.
Yeah,
and
you
try
were
to
able
deal
to
damage.
outmaneuver him very, very well.
Yeah.
Even against the Darkseer Surge, which
Yeah.
almost proved a problem there.
Yeah, no, the Darkseer for sure. But it keeps happening when you have a sword lane in your deck that when there's a big placement phase, there's just such a big chance that your opponent will like pick the wrong lane, because it seems like you can go into a lane where it seems like you won't be able to do anything, but then you just kill the ancient in 2 turns. Like 2 assault ladders, 2 swordless. I can't even count that high.
Yeah, Naiman did not see that double Sorla mid in game 1 coming at all.
Yeah, I didn't think he was going to either. Maybe he could have hedged to put 1 hero there, but I'm not even sure that would have been enough, because 1 hero can only block my heroes with creeps and not like. I mean, he doesn't have access to cards like Thunderstorm and Pick Off or Hipfire or any of those kind of removals. So then it just becomes so much easier when everything is decided by combat to evade them, etc.
Yeah, we talked about the inherent weakness of red-green, that they don't have access to removal, and if you're playing against a skilled opponent, then he will spot that and will act accordingly, so you didn't even need to bother about his removals because there are none.
Yeah, exactly. No, for sure. No, you're right. If they have like, say if they have Axe or Legion Commander, then it's a different story, right? But those cards are, well, they're insane for a reason. So, you know.
Well, good games, Yol. We're
Thank
actually
you.
going to take it to a break now, but well played.
Sounds good. All right.
So we're going to look at the bracket now. So Yol has just defeated Naiman, and he moves on, and we are going to be looking at
Kuro versus Game King
Kuro versus Game
is
King.
going to be the next game. We're casting all 7 games, or all 7 series actually, of today's top 8, and whoever wins the Kuro versus Game King will, of course, be against Yoel himself in the semifinals.